Thank you.
Do we have a quorum or don't you know yet?
You do have a quorum.
All right, let's go ahead and plan to get started with our meeting, and that way we don't waste anybody's time. The others will join us as they come along. This meeting is a discussion among commissioners and select presenters. The public is welcome to listen unless otherwise specified as public comment period during the public comment period and listening session. Items scheduled for the agenda will be maybe moved from time to time, depending on the needs of those who are presenting to us. The meeting will be an electronic meeting and pursuant to a core commission determination that conducting the meeting is in a physical location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location. The commission's meeting will not have a physical location then, and all attendees will connect remotely. If you'd like to follow along with the meeting, you can follow along by looking at, by joining us on SLC REP, all caps, live commission meeting YouTube channel. Members of the public may also listen to meetings, to this meeting via the electronic meeting platform Zoom, and connection information is available at our website, https://www.slc.gov/boards/REP agenda, or by calling 801-535-7644. And you can do that anytime within 24 hours. This meeting will be conducted by me as a member of the core commission. And to view membership information, you can also visit our website as we indicated before. I'd like to extend a hearty welcome and a greetings to all of those of you who are joining us for our meeting today. And for our public meeting guidelines, I remind you that we do have time limits, and we do expect that those who would comment would be brief, and then you can submit additional comments in writing. The portion of the meeting, this portion of the meeting is an opportunity for commissioners to discuss conversations with community members. The discussion will be focused on the commission's objective to provide recommendations to the mayor and city council on changes to the Salt Lake City Police Department's policies, budgets, and culture. No action will be taken during the open discussion period unless an item is scheduled on a subsequent agenda for follow-up. We want to start by reviewing the minutes of our previous meeting, and I believe all of the commissioners received copies. Do you have a motion regarding the minutes?
Reverend Davis.
Yes.
I apologize. We actually were not able to get the minutes to you at this time. So we'll be reviewing those next week.
All right, so we'll postpone the minutes for next week, for the last week until next week, and then we'll consider those. Okay. Item number 2 is a policy review of the Salt Lake City Police Department's policies and materials related to that. I believe we have members of the department here and or their attorneys, and at this time we turn it over to them.
Thank you, Reverend Davis. Thank you, commissioners. My name is Mark Cottrell. I'm the Deputy City Attorney for Salt Lake City, and I also am legal counsel to the Salt Lake City Police Department. And also, you might remember Katie and Lewis and I will be tasked in switching off and being the attorney for these meetings. So this will be my week. Katie sends her regards.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. I have been asked today to sort of perhaps maybe facilitate or moderate a discussion about the Salt Lake City Police Department policies. Excuse me. I believe you were provided a link to the Salt Lake City Police Department webpage that contains essentially a PDF document, about 800 pages, that has all of the departmental policies. It's my understanding that there may not be specific policies at issue today to discuss, but more perhaps it's an exploration to determine what concerns the commissioners have, and then identify which policies may be implicated by those concerns. And so any way I can perhaps aid in that discussion, I'm more than happy to do so, but I certainly don't want to curtail any discussion as well. So essentially, I want to make myself useful in however way you see fit.
Thank you. I don't believe most of us have had time to read the pages that were provided, but we've read some of it. Are there any specific areas that any person would like to call to our attorney and the commission's attention for discussion today?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Reverend Davis. And thank you, Mark Cottrell, for being here today and being available to answer our questions. We were contacted by a journalist, Eric Peterson. He does some investigative journalism and with Deseret News. He brought to our attention the policy regarding the information an officer needs to include in their report whenever there is a critical incident involving a law enforcement officer. Specifically, the concern is whether an officer can voluntarily exclude certain information that may be critical for the public to know about, or critical for the city, everyone to really know what happened during the officer involved critical incident. I'm not sure where in the policy manual that is, but I think it is something that we should take a look at to see if there's crucial language missing or language that needs to be changed. And I'm not sure quite where to look at it. And to be frank and candid with you, I have not even clicked the link yet to the policy manual.
Thank
It's
you.
on my to-do list.
Okay. Attorney, can you help us with that?
Well, I'd hope to. I don't offhand know which policy would be implicated, but what I could do is perhaps take notes on the potential implications raised by this question and try to identify those policies that may be relevant to that concern.
Okay.
And I'm sure there's probably policies that detail what needs to be contained in a police report. There may also be a provision in public records regarding certain types of reports and how they're classified. For example, under GRAMA, I know that there are things called initial contact reports, and those are classified as public records, and those must be provided if requested. And then there are supplemental reports that law enforcement typically detail, where more information is provided as they conduct their investigation. And depending on, where the status of that investigation is, that may or may not be classified as a public record at that time. But so I would say, sorry, that's a long way of saying there are likely policies that are directly implicated, and there may be some relevant GRAMA provisions as well. And we can help, our office can help identify what those are. I just couldn't tell you right off the top of my head right now.
Would a week's time be enough for you to take a look at whatever is available and get back to us?
Yes, Reverend, I believe that would be enough time.
Okay, so at our next meeting, then we'll have that item on the agenda for you to update us on.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Any other areas, any other concerns that anybody want to bring to our attention as of today regarding police departments, policies, and practices? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much. We appreciate that. And we'll proceed to item number 3 on the agenda. On our agenda, some persons have suggested that we would pair the members of the commission with a member of the active police department. And I believe I state that accurately. What suggestions are there today that we can talk about regarding that? Anybody?
I don't know if y'all remember, I think we had gotten a recommendation from somebody, a civilian that worked with Salt Lake PD. I think that was the recommendation that came from there. I don't know if we're able to bring that information. I don't know if Coletta, do you have that information or provide that overview?
So this is Cindy Liu. Let us actually still working on connections. The suggestion was shared to the commission by Roberta Mixon, who is a civilian and non-sworn employee of the Salt Lake City Police. The suggestion was to consider partnering members of the commission with various officers and staff of the Salt Lake City Police Department to provide opportunities for communication and increased understanding. What that would look like, I believe, was it is up to the commission determination if that program would move forward, and how that would fall into place is up to the commission to discuss. It was just something that had been suggested. Is that helpful?
I have a question.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. I have a question. What would that
Carol?
even look like? Or do we have any idea? Did they go into details? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Did they
I can
go
hear you.
into any detail about what that would look like?
The information that was provided to me, which was just a letter, weren't any details. And I think it may be like, I'd hate to speculate what it could be. So I believe that there could be an opportunity where a commissioner member is partnered with a member of the Salt Lake City Police staff and just meets regularly and discusses different content, was what it felt like through the letter. Unfortunately, I don't have Ms. Mixon here at the meeting today to address it specifically to how she saw that and envisioned it. I think it is up to the commission to define if you'd like to do it, and then further what it would look like for each of you in consideration of your time.
And maybe that's what we ought to be discussing today, is whether as a commission, we think that that idea is a worthy one, and do we want to follow up and see if we can make it happen. And Carol, while we don't know what it would look like at this point, we could give it a try, and if we decided to do it, and then see what it'll look like. Any other comments regarding that issue? The partnering of a commission members with a member of the department?
I just want to share that we are a voluntary committee, and I don't know if that would be the same on Salt Lake City police officers, and whether there would need to be a cost or a associated with doing something like that.
Good point. We do need to check with somebody, and perhaps our attorney can help us to look into that and see if there's a cost from the department's side. We are volunteer, but the department either time or pay. Perhaps you can look into that. Can you?
Yes, Reverend, thank you. I certainly might know a person or two where I could perhaps pull that information. I know that in the past, I think that officers have been happy to sort of explain their role and responsibilities to members of the community. I don't think it's unprecedented, but I certainly don't know how the department organizes it, and I'll raise the issue with the department and hopefully can get you some information pretty soon.
Great, great. So if we can do
And
that.
go ahead. Pastor, did you freeze?
Oh. No,
I was just going to say, I would like to have, I'd like to really know more of the purpose of partnering as opposed to, in my mind, I think there just needs to be some training first of law enforcement before we sit down and start talking. Because if we sit down and start talking, there hasn't been any training. So we're just having these conversations, and I understand it this way and you understand it this way, but there's no training of law enforcement in my mind to sit down and start having one-on-one conversations until they've had some training.
Carol, do you mean
training for,
training
No,
for what?
I know we're working on training. Sorry, I'm outside and there's flies. I know we're working on, they're working on training law enforcement to restructure the way things are done with law enforcement. So I don't see that I can sit down and have a conversation with you until you have an understanding of the full picture of why we have this commission, why this commission is needed, why the community is in uproar about certain things until you have had, and this is just my opinion, until you have had some explicit bias training, understanding, a full understanding of what is going on in this country, in the community, then I don't know if we can have a conversation. Does that make sense?
My understanding of the purpose was for us to understand each other, civilian population with law enforcement, to humanize each other, and to have a better grasp of the issues, so that we could actually move forward. I do support in maybe having a more explicit purpose, and maybe like there's maybe certain topics that as the groups would get together to speak with, so that we're not just rambling about stuff. If there is training, Carol, I think then we should also be part of that training, because we need to understand that side as well. So I don't know if there's a certain topic, then maybe we should all get that training as in addition to law enforcement. I know they do get implicit bias training and a variety of other trainings. And maybe that's one thing that we could bring up, maybe a list of all the trainings that they get, because Salt Lake PD does get a lot of training. But I'm a little confused as in what specific training that they should get that we shouldn't, because I think we need to understand the issue as well. I don't feel I know the issue nationally either, and I'm pretty in depth in this field.
yeah, and I think we all need to be
Pastor-
on one accord, and both the officers and the commission. And so perhaps the training, Carol, that you're referring to would be training for both sides, the commission and for the officers. Carol, did you have something else?
Not right now. I don't have anything to say right now.
I wish I could find,
I
All right.
may come back later, but right now,
I do remember that in the original email, there were some other recommendations. And so, it would be really thoughtful how we were paired up. And so I know that one of the recommendations was that it would be an opposite sex or different generations. And it was really just about being able to understand each other's views and opinions and perspectives. And I'm very much open to that. I think as a commission, if we're really going to make this work, and if we're really going to be able to communicate with our community and law enforcement officers, we need to start by trying to understand each other. And I think that was the purpose of the recommendation was just coming from a place of understanding and really wanting to know each other and work together.
That
Any
was my
comments?
understanding. That was my understanding as well, Verona, was the point was to get to know each other. And I completely appreciate your perspective, Carol, on maybe having some basic implicit bias training, but I can't confirm this, but it's my understanding that SLPD does receive that training. I could be wrong. And of course, Mr. Kittrell can correct me on that, but it was my understanding they received that. I did send a letter from Ms. Mixon to the general Rep C Commission members' email address. So I hope you all receive it. It's on our Google Drive. I would share it, but I don't know if Ms. Mixon would want her email address broadcast live on YouTube. So I've refrained from sharing it wholesale until we can get permission from her to maybe share it in that regard, or at least redact it out so that her privacy is protected. But it seemed that the purpose was to humanize each other. That so many people see us as polar opposites when I don't know that we're that polarized all around. So it's a chance to humanize each other and create a more open conversation. And I'm completely for it. I'd be happy to get started tomorrow if necessary.
Any other?
I'm sorry, Reverend. I would like to have some
Go
kind
ahead.
of format or some kind of process that we would follow, so that we're all kind of at least sharing somewhat of the same experiences as we meet. I'm also thinking that's a lot of police officers and staff that work with PD, and I don't know how that will look logistically as well. So maybe we could put some more thought into this. And then Carol, you could bring up some more, maybe as you think about it, bring some of these thoughts as well, and then we could implement it in there, as well as everybody else, of course. I want to build relationships. I think that's the best way we move forward. By building relationships, we start trusting each other, even if it's that little. So I would be in support of it, but I do want to make sure that we look into people's feeling of safety, as well as have some kind of structure for this. Thank you, Reverend.
Well, perhaps the thing to do then is to, again, take a look at Ms. Mixon's letter and get the feedback that the attorney is going to bring us next time, and then have a further discussion. So we'll plan to put this on the agenda for next time again. And I ask all of you to give some thought to the items on the Google Drive, as well as the letter and so forth. And if you have some ideas about how this might work as well.
Reverend,
Any
may
other
I?
comments? Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. The couple thoughts on this. I am in favor of it, and obviously I come from a law enforcement background, and one thing that I think we should consider doing if we do move forward with this is really having the opportunity for commission members to have conversations with various members of the department, even in the same area, because not all officers have the same perspective on the department. It's not just one platform. And I think it would be valuable to hear from various patrol officers what their perspective is. And relative to the implicit bias training, I would be curious to ask some questions about how officers were able to internalize that, or where they are with understanding the importance of that implicit bias and ways to combat that when we work with the multicultural community. So I think that might be an opportunity to ask some good questions of those individuals about the effectiveness of that bias and where they are personally. And I also think officers are going to have some ideas about moving forward as well that would be valuable for the commission to hear, which we obviously don't have to accept or implement. But I think hearing that as part of our understanding of a broad perspective would be really valuable. So in addition to supporting this, I think we should be thoughtful about getting different perspectives to broaden our understanding. Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you, Steve. Other comments? Can we then place this on the agenda for next time for a more researched and thoughtful discussion? And if I can ask everybody to do whatever you can to find out what you'd like to see in this regard, or if you don't want to see it at all, and then let's come back next time and perhaps make a decision about whether we want to do this or not. Okay? Any other questions? Great. We'll go ahead to item number 4. David Litvak, I believe, is online, and he will bring us an update as to the search for the facilitator. David.
Thank you, Reverend Davis. Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be with you today. I will be quick. The facilitator, as I believe you've been briefed, that there was a firm that was selected through the process. We have reached out to that selected firm. We are in the process of drafting the contract for that specific firm and waiting for some additional information back from them on their budget. But that process is well underway and moving us closer to having that facilitator on board and ready to engage with all of you as the commission. I know that sounds really vague and politicky, and that's what I'm good at, and I apologize, but I'm not at this point able to talk about who that specific firm is until we go through that process.
David, do we have a general timeline?
Hard for me to say right now, but I'm hoping within to get the contract done within a couple of weeks. What I am, and I don't know if Mark Cottrell's probably not the right person on this one, but what I am asking is, as we go through that process, what can the level of engagement be with the facilitator while we're still working through that process? My hope being that at some point while we're going through and finishing up the formal agreement, that we can have that facilitator begin to engage with the commission.
Great. I think the commission's concern was, David, that we would do this as soon as possible. So if we can continue to remind the organization that we are on a fairly quick timeline, and we're hoping to get them going as soon as possible.
Yes, absolutely, Reverend. And I will say that most of that right now is within Salt Lake City. So it's not the organization process on the city side. So I would imagine, I have not spoken to them directly, but I would imagine that they're feeling that same sense of urgency and raring to go.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments to David regarding the facilitator? Okay, thank you, David. We appreciate that update. And although it was very political, but thank you. And let's go on to the next item on our agenda, the Youth Subcommittee. Moses, can you update us in terms of that?
So we met a couple of weeks ago with the whole group to introduce ourselves. It was an amazing group. Luna and Verona were also in that group, and we left there thinking that maybe they're the ones that are gonna be telling us what to do. It was really nice to see how what go-getters they are and all the skills they already have. What they had agreed to is they wanted to talk amongst themselves to be able to figure out who would be the two. They did decide that they would have a rotating commission members 2 at a time, and they're trying to figure out the exact timing so that everybody gets to be able to be on the commission at least for a year. So they met without us there so they could kind of speak openly. They also needed to figure out if they're going to meet weekly, every 2 weeks, monthly what, and then they're going to come back to us. So they did decide on a meeting every 2 weeks. Right now is a really tough time this last week or so because school just started and all of them are either in high school or in college. So they're a little bit frantic. I was just about to say, where are you guys? But they're trying to figure that out right now. So they did go with every 2 weeks. They're looking at meeting on weekends because a lot of them do work as well as go to school. Verona, Luna, and Kamal, maybe we could take turns to do some weekend work with them. Again, they're exciting. You leave there pretty gun ho. They're so awesome. And then the reason they have not selected the 2 yet is because some of them are not 18 years old yet. And since this is an open meeting to the public, we needed to get some lawyerly advice of what that entails. And so we just did get it. And so we send it back to them, to see if they can be in the commission, if what kind of information can be provided to the public if you're not 18. So that's the reason they were kind of waiting on that. So hopefully they asked if they did select somebody, if they could come in last minute to the meeting today. I recommended not to, that we could start next week. So hopefully that's what we'll start next week. Hopefully we'll get
Great.
an exact date on when that will happen.
Great. Any questions, comments to Moses regarding the subcommittee's report? Any concerns? All right, none. Are there other items that we need to, as a commission, consider today?
And can we have the link to the police manual resent to us? I can't find it in my emails, and I'm sure it's just buried in there. That'd be nice to have it at the top.
I can
Is
send it.
it on the,
Thank
is
you.
it on the agenda? Is that hyperlink
Yes. It is on the agenda, and we can go ahead and send that out to you as well.
on number 2, I think?
Okay, so we'll resend that, and that way everybody will have an opportunity to take a look. And do the best you can to review as much of that material as you possibly can. And we understand that you have other things to do, but let's do as much as we can. This is a pressing and urgent matter that we need to take a look at, okay? All right, if there are no other items, can we have a
Reverend?
Reverend,
yes.
if I may, I apologize. If it might be more helpful, because I recognize that the police policy manual is 800 pages. It's quite a daunting document, even for me to kind of go through. And so maybe if it would be helpful, sort of like today, if there were topics or subject matters that particular commissioners are interested in, certainly maybe identify those, and then our office can maybe help identify the relevant policies that would fit those potential topics or discussions. We'd be happy to do that.
Good idea, good idea.
Mark?
I'm interested, by the way, in at least 2 areas. One, I'm interested in whether there's policy related to dogs and the use of those, and are they considered as a weapon and so forth. And then secondly, I'm also interested in what is not stated in policy regarding the knee, the use of the knee. I know that the policy says that there's another way to control a person, but is there something that is not in the policy regarding the use of knee on the neck kind of thing? So those are 2 areas I'm interested in. Anybody else have any areas that you'd like them to do more research on before next week?
Yes, if there's any policies around de-escalating a situation.
And there are policies, so we'll certainly want to take a look at some of those. Okay. All right, great. Anything else?
Real quick, Reverend, I'd like to ask Mark. Mark, is there any way that, since you're kind of there already, and I'm sure you're hearing a lot of this, is that maybe you on your end can kind of think, these are some of the issues that we're hearing out nationwide as well as here locally. And here's some policies would you like, and just kind of give us some recommendations as well. I think that would be really helpful because we may totally miss it. And that's something you may already there at the department here. Is that a possibility?
Commissioner Prospero, I certainly hope so. I don't want to be too presumptive in what I think the commission may want to hear, but I'll certainly try to identify those things that are hot button issues and try to identify those policies that surround those issues. Yes.
And I think as Kamal has pointed out before, we think we've got a good system working here. And so we certainly want to take a look at those positive things as well. All right. Any other comments regarding policies and issues to bring up for next time? Okay, regarding closed session, the regular commission's meeting will be adjourned at the end of any closed session if we decide to have one. And that will be the end of our meeting. So we will not be taking action on any items that we discussed. But we went over last time the purpose of closed meetings. And so the proposal today is that the commission will consider a motion to enter into closed session for the purpose of discussion regarding deployment of security personnel, devices, and systems, and to receive advice of legal counsel regarding that. David, Mark, does that summarize what our motion needs to be? All right.
Yes.
Is there a person who would like to make that motion? And then a person that would second it, and then we'll have a roll call vote. Anybody that will make a motion, Commissioner?
I make the
I'll second.
motion.
Okay. I'll second.
I will second it. This is Batar.
Was that Steve and Batar and Nicole? All right.
Yes.
So those are the motioners and the seconds. I'll now take a roll call vote. Nicole?
Reverend, I'm sorry, this is Cindy Lou. Can I just for the record clarify that it was Commissioner Johnson who made the
Right.
motion and seconded by
Right.
Commissioner Salazar Hall? Thank you.
Right. Salazar and Batar, both of them seconded.
Thank you.
Okay. So for a roll call to see if we want to go into closed session, we'll start with you, Nicole.
Aye.
Darlene? Darlene?
She is
Moses?
Yes, this is Darlene. I'm here.
Okay, Darlene. Is your vote yes?
Yes.
And Moses?
Aye.
Aiden?
Yes.
Verona?
Aye.
Kamal?
Aye.
Marion?
Aye.
Tanya?
Aye.
Stephen Johnson?
Aye.
Luna?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Davina? Davina Smith?
Is absent today.
Okay. Anna Pessa?
Aye.
Ola Sa?
Aye.
Okay. Samantha?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
Abdullah?
Abdullah is absent today.
Carol? Carol Schiffler? Carol's left. Okay. And my vote is aye. So we have a approval of the motion by the vote, a roll call vote. And again, we will, after the closed session is done, we'll receive a motion to adjourn. And then at the next session, we'll talk about anything that we need to, okay? All right, let's take a minute or two and give the staff time to close the meeting for us.